Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Serena, and in today's video we're going to be recreating a Barbie outfit that I found from the independent designer Gwendolyn Treasures. I came across this photo while scrolling on Pinterest and I got major inspiration. For this outfit I will be using a pattern that is not new to my channel. It's actually one of my favorites, and I'm going to make the final view of this outfit. I've already done the two other views and now it's time to do the third and final view. So if you're interested in seeing this project through, go ahead and like and subscribe, and let's get into the fabric and the pattern. For the pattern, I'll be using McCall's 5782 in a size 10T, T standing for teen and bust 30. I'll be making view B the full skirted option with view A's Bolero jacket. Here's the back of the pattern with the fabric requirements and the pattern shapes. This was made in 1961. The silhouette of this pattern really matches the inspiration. It has the midriff as well as that boat or slash necked bodice. It also features a two-tone full skirt that's easily adaptable for this pattern. For the fabric, I'm going to use this bright yellow polka dotted fabric from my stash, as well as some white cotton for the contrast, and for the Bolero I'll use a white cotton twill that I already had on hand. Like I stated previously in the intro of the video, I've already made this dress on my channel twice before, so I may not go into as much detail as I have in the other videos, so I'm going to link them in the cards above just in case you want to check those out. At this point in the project, I was dead set on making mine an exact replica to the Barbie dress, and I had no desire to make the Bolero. But then I thought back to the very last time that I made this pattern on my channel, and I did have a request that I eventually make the Bolero. In my opinion, if I decided to make the Bolero, then the buttons from the original design would have to go because they would clash with my dress if I put those little miniature buttons on the midriff, like the 6 buttons on the midriff, as well as those 3 massive buttons on the Bolero. I wouldn't be able to wear the dress with the Bolero at the same time without it looking ridiculous. So for me, it was an easy choice to get rid of the mini buttons and go with the large buttons. However, if I were still going to go closer to the Barbie dress design, I would have gone with teeny tiny covered buttons in the contrasting fabric instead of a plastic alternative. In a couple months, it'll be about a year since it was originally requested that I make the Bolero, so I hope that subscriber is still among us and gets the help or gets the video that they desired. Sorry it took so long, but I do try and make authentic content here, as in I still try and continue to make projects that I feel like wearing and want or inspired to make in the moment, as opposed to just making things for the sake of making them. So I definitely had to wait until I came up with a reason to make the Bolero. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've never actually made a Bolero here on this channel. I'm always going for like a suit jacket or a full coat. I don't know what it is. I feel like Boleros kind of cover up the dress, but in this case I feel like it's a good addition to the dress and allows me to have 2 different looks. While I'm seaming the skirt, basically doing the color blocking, I wanted to explain how I decided how much white I wanted to put on this skirt as opposed to yellow. In the original design, I noticed that Barbie's wrist came right where the split in the color is. However, I have really long arms, so basically it looked like she had less white and more pink on her dress. But unfortunately, if I would have done the same thing, then it wouldn't have hit on the same place on my arms. So instead of going with less white and more yellow the way that it appeared on Barbie's dress, I decided to make sure that the split hit where my wrist was, which kind of makes the colors seem a bit more even. I could have balanced it out by making the dress longer, but I really like where the skirt stops on this dress on me, so I just opted to go with half and half. While we're at the serger, I want to talk about seam finishes really quickly. Where I did the color blocking on the skirt, I used the serger to finish off the raw edges. The midriff is lined and there's a facing for most of the upper bodice, so basically just the side seams are French seamed. So I used 3 different seam finishes for this project and I got a really clean, smooth finish. I really adore this pattern. This is the 4th time I'm making this dress, the 3rd video I'm making on it, and I hope this is still very much interesting. I did try and make sure that there was a variety between all 3 videos. This has to be my 2nd favorite dress pattern, and the first one being very similar to this one except for it has a collar. And if you wonder why I make this one so much more, is because the fabric requirement is a little less, so it's like everything that I love about the first one, but I don't have to use as much fabric. I am a sucker for a midriff. I feel like once you get that pattern, that style that makes you feel very comfortable and beautiful, it's really hard to avoid it, which isn't that great when you're a content creator. Along with showing new and exciting things, I think it's really important to share the reality of what sewing's like for me. And for me, I am a pattern repeater. That being said, I've managed to make a lot of the same outfits look completely different depending on my fabric choice and color combinations and overall design composition. So if you are a beginner out there, don't be afraid to reuse the same pattern, reimagine it, redesign it over and over, especially if you find something that you truly love and adore wearing. For all my longtime vintage seamstresses and sewists, you'll have to let me know below, what is your most used vintage pattern or pattern in general? Which one do you pick up every time you know you need to feel good, and something that you truly trust and don't have to work out any of the kinks, where you can just go in and mindlessly sew because you've made it so many times, you know it'll be a great fit and a wonderful pick-me-up. I'm almost done with the dress, and when I get to the Bolero section, I'm going to start going more in depth on the sewing process since I've never made it before. I'm really excited to be reintroducing Barbie into my life as an adult, because being a Barbie adult, you're able to take inspiration and actually make your dreams come true. And in this case, I'm able to be inspired by other small artists that make doll clothes, and they are extremely talented. I follow quite a few on Instagram. Who doesn't like life in miniature, especially when it comes from a small artist, because everything looks more realistic as opposed to pink molded plastic. Now we're on to the Bolero, and it's really important that you mark everything from your pattern onto your fabric, because this is an off-centered button-up jacket, and you want to make sure that your center front is properly marked so everything lines up perfectly. I marked all of my pieces, pinned them, and brought them to the sewing machine, so all I'm doing is sewing up all of the darts all at once. The instructions say that this Bolero can be lined or faced. I'm going to go ahead and line it because I think it'll be much quicker and look nicer, and so I'm going to sew up all of the outer pieces on camera, and then I'm going to do the lining off camera because it's the exact same steps. Once all the darts are in, then I seam down the center back of the Bolero, and before sewing any further with the front pieces, I need to put in my bound buttonholes. You always want to do this before doing anything else because you want to make sure that your bound buttonholes are straight, and I have a complete tutorial or demo of me using my Singer Professional buttonholer, and I will link that in the cards above as well. The Bolero has attached sleeves, so it makes sewing this up really quick, and I like to sew the underarms first so that way I can reinforce the curves that I clip with some bias tape later. It's a lot easier to smoothly sew down the bias tape if the shoulders are not seamed together first. So unlike the instructions telling you to do the shoulder seams first, I just did the underarm seams first, and now you can see why. If you made it this far in the video, please consider liking the video to help push it through the algorithm, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do so now. I truly appreciate it and would love for you to stick around. Clipping the curves underneath the arm is really important for this pattern because it doesn't have a gusset, and because the sleeves are attached, there's no real ease to make your arms move. So clipping the curves allows you to have movement, but you want to reinforce the curves because you don't want the fabric to tear there. Then you sew up the shoulder seams using a 5/8 seam allowance, and then you repeat all of the same process on the lining material. Then you're going to put everything right sides together and sew all the way around, leaving the arms open, and then I leave a small area in the lower back open so I can turn my work. I left it open between the lower back darts. And then I want to give some assumed information that wasn't put in the pattern. Make sure that you understitch the neckline on this. You do not want your collar to roll forward when you've done so well to make sure that doesn't happen on your dress. Once you're done sewing, you're going to want to turn your work, press everything, slip stitch the opening between the back darts, and slip stitch the lining of the sleeve and the outer sleeve. All that's left to do is to add 3 large buttons. I used fabric covered buttons in the yellow contrasting fabric, and a little tip with shank buttons, it's really nice if you put a small plastic button behind it to use as a stabilizer. It keeps it from dangling, especially if it's top heavy or extra large, and it's just an added security on top of the interfacing that should already be in the jacket. And this is the final look. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video, for watching this far. Special thanks to my bobbins over on Patreon. If you like to support this channel, please consider liking and subscribing. To support me any further, you can leave me a virtual tip over on Ko-fi, or you can become a bobbin over on Patreon. Anything will be truly appreciated. The best free way to support me is to like, subscribe, and share with someone you think might care, and leave me a comment below. If you don't know what to comment, you can definitely leave a comment saying, girl, this pattern again. I think it would be pretty funny. Let me know if I should make a video linking Barbie inspiration with vintage patterns, and I'll see you in the next one.